November 23rd, 1942. Tunisia. The first light of dawn creeps across the Kasserine Pass like a cautious reconnaissance patrol, painting the rocky outcroppings in shades of amber and rust that mirror the desert camouflage of scattered Wehrmacht equipment. The air carries multiple layers of scent that tell the story of modern warfare. Acrid diesel fuel mixing with the metallic bite of cordite, the sweet sick smell of hydraulic fluid pooling beneath damaged machinery, and underneath it all, the ancient odor of North African sand heated by the previous day's sun and now cooling in the pre-dawn hours. In a hastily constructed repair depot carved from the natural rock formations that dot this lunar landscape, Obergefreiter Klaus Hartmann emerges from his canvas shelter and walks deliberately toward the source of considerable amusement among his fellow mechanics. The captured American vehicle sits at an awkward angle, its right rear tire completely shredded by shrapnel from yesterday's Allied artillery barrage that had sent German forces scrambling for cover among the rocks. Steam rises from its radiator in thin wisps that dissipate quickly in the dry desert air, and the strengthening morning light reveals every imperfection, every crude weld, every apparent shortcut in its construction with the harsh clarity that only desert dawns can provide. The machine appears smaller than Hartmann had expected, more like an oversized toy than serious military equipment. Its olive drab paint shows through to bare metal in dozens of places where rocks and debris have scraped against its thin body panels during its capture 3 days earlier. Hartmann approaches with the measured pace of a craftsman who has devoted 15 years of his life to understanding the intricate relationship between German engineering and military superiority. His hands, permanently stained with grease and scarred by countless hours maintaining the sophisticated machinery that has carried the Wehrmacht across half of Europe, move with practiced precision as he begins his examination. These are the hands of a man who understands the delicate tolerances required to keep Kübelwagen transmissions operating smoothly, who can diagnose engine problems by sound alone, who has learned to coax maximum performance from precision German machinery even under the most challenging battlefield conditions. The identification plate riveted to the dashboard reads Willys MB in simple stamped letters that lack any pretension to artistic design or industrial pride. No ornate Gothic script proclaims German engineering excellence. No imperial eagles spread their wings in metallic testimony to national greatness. No symbols of industrial achievement mark this machine as the product of a superior civilization. Just plain American lettering on a plain American machine that appears more suited to hauling farm equipment than conducting military operations in one of history's most sophisticated theaters of war. The morning light streaming through the depot's improvised canvas roof reveals body panels so thin that Hartmann can actually dent them with moderate finger pressure. The fenders, designed with such economy of material that they seem almost skeletal, bear the rough texture of mass production rather than the smooth finish that characterizes proper German craftsmanship. Every surface tells the same story of industrial haste over engineering precision, quantity over quality, democratic shortcuts over authoritarian perfectionism. The entire vehicle weighs barely 2,000 pounds compared to the substantial mass of properly engineered German equipment. Behind Hartmann, Gefreiter Wilhelm Strauss kicks contemptuously at one of the vehicle's small tires and releases a laugh that echoes off the surrounding rock walls with the easy confidence of a man who has never encountered equipment that could challenge German technological superiority. Strauss has spent 3 years maintaining the sophisticated machinery that carried Wehrmacht forces across Poland in 27 days, through France in 6 weeks, and deep into the Soviet Union in what seemed like an unstoppable demonstration of German military and industrial excellence. He knows intimately the precise beauty of properly engineered equipment, understands the critical tolerances that separate superior German technology from the crude approximations produced by lesser industrial nations. This American contraption sprawled before them represents everything fundamentally wrong with democratic approaches to military engineering. It embodies the naive belief that quantity can substitute for quality, that mass production techniques suitable for civilian automobiles can somehow meet the demanding requirements of modern warfare, that untrained personnel can operate and maintain complex military equipment without the years of technical education that German doctrine considers essential for battlefield effectiveness. The German Reich had devoted the entire previous decade to perfecting the relationship between advanced engineering and military doctrine under the guidance of the world's most sophisticated industrial minds. Their Kübelwagen, based on Ferdinand Porsche's revolutionary Volkswagen design, represented everything the National Socialist state believed about the fundamental connection between technological superiority and ideological correctness. Every component had been engineered to serve multiple functions with characteristic German efficiency. Every system had been integrated with Prussian precision into a cohesive mechanical whole that demonstrated the superiority of centralized planning over democratic chaos. The Kübelwagen's air-cooled engine eliminated the complexity and vulnerability inherent in liquid cooling systems, reducing maintenance requirements while improving reliability under extreme conditions. Its sophisticated geared hub reduction system allowed the vehicle to match the walking pace of infantry formations at precisely 4 kilometers per hour, then surge to 80 kilometers per hour when tactical situations demanded rapid repositioning. The entire design philosophy reflected German military thinking, sophisticated equipment operated by highly trained personnel who understood the intricate relationships between mechanical systems and tactical requirements. More fundamentally, the Kübelwagen embodied the German philosophy of warfare itself. It was engineered for the thinking soldier, the technically competent operator who possessed both the intellectual capacity to understand complex machinery and the professional training necessary to extract maximum performance from precisely calibrated systems. German military doctrine assumed that superior education, better equipment, and more sophisticated tactics would inevitably triumph over mere numerical superiority. The Wehrmacht had conquered most of Europe by applying this philosophy, using advanced technology operated by highly trained professionals to achieve victories that seemed to defy simple mathematical probability. Standing in the Tunisian sunrise, examining this captured specimen of American military engineering, Hartmann embodies everything the German military establishment believes about itself and its enemies. Where proper military vehicles require substantial armor protection, he sees metal panels so thin they could be penetrated by rifle fire. Where sophisticated engineering demands complexity and redundancy, he discovers a simple 4-cylinder engine that appears designed for civilian rather than military applications. The transmission seems almost primitive compared to the intricate systems he has mastered through years of technical training. Most revealing of all, the entire vehicle appears designed for operation by minimally trained personnel rather than skilled technicians. American military philosophy apparently assumes that common soldiers can operate and maintain complex equipment without extensive technical education, a democratic delusion that German doctrine considers fundamentally impossible. Military effectiveness requires professional competence, and professional competence develops only through rigorous training and disciplined study. Democratic societies, with their emphasis on equality and individual rights, supposedly cannot produce the technical excellence necessary for modern warfare. Intelligence briefings have informed Hartmann that American factories operate around the clock producing thousands of these simple vehicles using the same assembly line techniques they employ for civilian automobile production. This represents everything decadent about democratic industrial organization, the belief that mechanical quantity can substitute for engineering quality, that industrial capacity matters more than technical excellence, that untrained masses can somehow achieve what properly educated professionals accomplish through years of dedicated study and practice. The captured Jeep serves as physical evidence of American strategic thinking that German analysts consider fundamentally flawed. Democratic societies lack the unity of purpose necessary for sophisticated military-industrial coordination. Their political systems, burdened by competing interests and endless debates, cannot achieve the focused efficiency that authoritarian organization makes possible. Their industrial systems, designed for profit rather than national greatness, cannot match the technical excellence that centralized planning and state direction can achieve. Hartmann confidently predicts that this captured vehicle will fail within days of returning to operational service. The inadequate body panels will crack under the mechanical stress of off-road operation. The oversimplified engine will overheat when subjected to the sustained demands of actual military use. The crude transmission will strip its gears when forced to handle the torque requirements that characterize battlefield conditions. Most predictably, the unsophisticated electrical system will fail when exposed to the dust, moisture, vibration, and temperature extremes that define military operations in desert environments. German mechanics understand through professional experience that reliable military equipment requires careful maintenance by trained personnel, using precision tools and genuine replacement parts manufactured to exact specifications. These requirements cannot be compromised without sacrificing operational effectiveness. Democratic armies, with their emphasis on equality and individual initiative, cannot provide the disciplined technical support that sophisticated equipment demands. American forces will discover that their mass-produced equipment fails precisely when battlefield conditions become most demanding. Yet as November dissolves into December, then transforms into January, something entirely unprecedented begins unfolding across the North African theater of operations. The captured Jeep not only continues functioning, it begins demonstrating capabilities that challenge every fundamental assumption about American engineering competence and democratic military organization. Day after day, German reconnaissance units commandeer the little vehicle for missions that would test their finest equipment. The supposedly inadequate engine runs continuously for weeks without the careful maintenance schedules that German vehicles require for reliable operation. The crude transmission proves remarkably effective across terrain types that sometimes defeat more sophisticated German machinery. Sand dunes that bog down properly engineered vehicles present no obstacle to the simple American design. Rocky outcroppings that damage precision components cause no apparent harm to the Jeep's robust construction. Muddy wadis that require careful navigation with German equipment can be crossed casually with the American vehicle. Most disturbing of all, the elementary electrical system continues functioning despite prolonged exposure to conditions that would cripple properly engineered German equipment within hours. Reports begin filtering in from other Wehrmacht units operating captured American vehicles across the entire desert campaign. These accounts tell the same troubling story with monotonous consistency. German forces discover that American Jeeps can carry payloads of 800 pounds compared to the 400 pounds that represents maximum safe capacity for the elegant Kübelwagen. The simple American machine can tow loads approaching 1,000 pounds, exactly double the capacity of German vehicles designed with far greater mechanical sophistication and engineering precision. Perhaps most shocking of all, the Jeep's 15-gallon fuel tank provides operational ranges that exceed German capabilities by nearly 100%, allowing extended reconnaissance missions and supply runs without the constant refueling operations that limit Wehrmacht tactical flexibility. The mathematics prove impossible to dismiss. American democratic engineering has somehow achieved practical battlefield performance that exceeds German theoretical superiority across multiple critical categories. Intelligence reports filtering back to German High Command reveal production statistics that render these individual performance advantages even more strategically significant. Willys Overland Motors has manufactured 363,000 hours of these MB model vehicles since 1941, while Ford Motor Company has produced another 280,000 virtually identical units designated GPW. Combined American Jeep production exceeds 640,000 vehicles manufactured between 1941 and 1945 using standardized components and interchangeable parts, a production achievement that dwarfs German industrial capabilities despite years of centralized planning and resource commandeering across occupied Europe. During the same four-year period, German factories managed to produce merely 50,435 Kübelwagen despite utilizing slave labor extracted from conquered territories, commandeering raw materials from across the Reich, and prioritizing military production over civilian needs. The mathematical disparity becomes even more disturbing when German analysts examine broader American military production statistics. Those 640,000 Jeeps represent just one category among hundreds of different vehicle types, weapon systems, and equipment classifications that American industry produces simultaneously without apparent strain on national resources. Behind every captured Jeep stands statistical evidence of American industrial capacity that German planners find almost impossible to comprehend. Thousands of tanks rolling off assembly lines in Detroit factories that converted from automobile production without missing delivery schedules. Millions of rifles manufactured to identical specifications in facilities across dozens of different states. Countless aircraft produced by companies that learned to build flying machines by studying existing designs and improving manufacturing processes. Endless supplies of ammunition, uniforms, medical equipment, communications gear, and support materials manufactured by a democratic society that has somehow organized itself into history's most powerful military-industrial complex. Every captured American supply depot tells the same story of abundance that challenges fundamental German assumptions about democratic military capability. Mountains of identical equipment manufactured to consistent specifications, standardized rifles that any soldier can operate without extensive training, uniform boots produced in dozens of sizes but to identical quality standards, standard rations that provide reliable nutrition without requiring individual customization, and those omnipresent jerry cans that seem to appear in unlimited quantities wherever American forces establish operations. The jerry cans prove particularly disturbing to German strategic thinking. These small metal fuel containers, stamped with simple U.S. lettering and manufactured to identical specifications, appear in such unlimited quantities that American forces can afford to abandon them when empty rather than expending personnel and equipment on recovery operations. German fuel containers, by contrast, represent precious resources that must be carefully maintained, recovered when possible, and reused until completely worn out. Every battlefield encounter provides additional evidence that American forces operate under completely different logistical assumptions than German doctrine considers possible. Individual items of equipment are treated as expendable rather than precious. Replacement parts arrive automatically rather than requiring complex requisition procedures. Damaged equipment can be abandoned rather than requiring field repair attempts that risk personnel and consume valuable time. Most revolutionary of all, American military doctrine assumes that democratic abundance makes conservation unnecessary, a strategic philosophy that German planners find almost impossible to understand. The psychological impact on German forces becomes evident in battlefield reports that describe American units advancing with apparent indifference to equipment losses that would paralyze Wehrmacht operations. When American vehicles break down, crews simply abandon them and request replacements rather than attempting repairs that might delay mission completion. When ammunition supplies run low, American forces call for resupply rather than rationing remaining resources. When individual soldiers lose equipment, they receive replacements rather than facing disciplinary action for failing to maintain government property. These observations force German analysts to confront uncomfortable questions about the relationship between political systems and military effectiveness. German ideology maintains that only authoritarian societies can achieve the discipline and coordination necessary for modern warfare. Democratic societies, burdened by competing interests and political debates, supposedly lack the unity of purpose required for total war mobilization. Yet evidence arriving from every theater of operations contradicts these comfortable theoretical assumptions. American democracy has achieved levels of military-industrial coordination that exceed anything the German Reich has accomplished, despite years of authoritarian control, centralized planning, and resource commandeering. More disturbing still, American society has achieved this coordination while maintaining civilian political processes, protecting individual rights, and preserving democratic institutions that German theory considers incompatible with effective war-making. By 1944, captured German intelligence documents reveal complete transformation in Wehrmacht assessments of American military capability. Official reports no longer dismiss American equipment as inferior or predict rapid American collapse when confronted by German superiority. Instead, they warn German commanders to expect reliable, effective equipment produced in overwhelming quantities and operated by well-trained personnel, supported by logistical resources that appear essentially unlimited from German perspective. The Jeep has evolved beyond mere transportation to become a symbol of American industrial capacity and democratic determination. Every successful mission completed by captured American vehicles reinforces the growing German understanding that they face more than just another army. American forces represent an entire industrial civilization mobilized for victory while retaining its fundamental democratic character. Every American soldier embodies not only individual training and equipment, but also the productive capacity of an entire society organized around his success. The strategic implications become impossible for German planners to ignore, even as they struggle to accept their meaning. Those 640,000 Jeeps represent merely the visible surface of American military-industrial capability that extends far beyond what German intelligence can accurately measure. Behind them stand production systems capable of manufacturing hundreds of thousands of aircraft, millions of vehicles, countless weapons, and endless supplies, all produced by a society that maintains civilian political processes even while organizing itself completely for total war. The small fuel can that accompanies each captured Jeep serves as a daily reminder that American abundance extends to every aspect of warfare, from strategic bombers capable of reaching German cities to individual mess kits carried by infantry soldiers. This abundance derives not from superior natural resources or favorable geography, but from superior social organization that mobilizes voluntary cooperation rather than relying on authoritarian compulsion. German forces encountering American units across multiple theaters no longer face just another enemy army. They confront an entire democratic civilization that has organized itself for victory without abandoning the political principles that define its national character. The systematic application of democratic abundance to every aspect of warfare creates military capabilities that exceed anything authoritarian systems can achieve through control and compulsion. As the war approaches its inevitable conclusion, German mechanics like Hartmann understand that they have witnessed something unprecedented in military history. The Americans have demonstrated that democratic societies possess organizational and industrial capabilities that surpass anything authoritarian regimes can accomplish through centralized control and forced coordination. The Jeep's transformation from ridiculed curiosity to respected necessity reflects a larger revolution in warfare itself, the triumph of democratic abundance over authoritarian scarcity, voluntary cooperation over compelled service, practical effectiveness over theoretical sophistication. The final lesson emerges not from any single battle or campaign, but from the cumulative weight of industrial reality observed across years of global conflict. American military effectiveness derives not from superior individual weapons or revolutionary tactics, but from the systematic application of democratic principles to every aspect of military organization. The Jeep succeeded not because it represented better engineering than German vehicles, but because it was more appropriately engineered for mass production, field maintenance, and tactical expendability within logistical systems designed around unlimited replacement rather than careful conservation. Those 640,000 Jeeps crossed every terrain on Earth, not through superior individual engineering, but through superior social engineering that organized an entire democratic civilization for victory. They embodied the fundamental democratic principle that free people, working together voluntarily toward common goals, can achieve more than subjects compelled by authority and motivated by fear. Every muddy tire track, every successful mission, every reliable engine start, every makeshift repair proved that American democracy possessed resources deeper than any military doctrine could measure and more powerful than any strategic planning could fully utilize. The humble jerry cans that accompanied each Jeep remained as quiet testimonies to the abundance that freedom creates when entire societies choose cooperation over coercion, service over subjugation, democratic participation over authoritarian control. They represented the unstoppable power of civilizations, organized around human dignity rather than hierarchical dominance, voluntary commitment rather than compelled obedience, shared abundance rather than concentrated scarcity. In the end, those 640,000 vehicles had carried more than soldiers and supplies across the battlefields of World War II. They had carried proof that democracy itself represented the ultimate military technology, capable of mobilizing resources and inspiring sacrifice beyond anything force alone could achieve. The Jeep had taught the world that in total war, victory belongs not to the most sophisticated individual weapons or the most ruthless individual leaders, but to the most effectively organized democratic societies. An effective democratic organization, history proved, flourished best in the soil of freedom, nourished by abundance, and protected by citizens who chose to fight rather than subjects commanded to serve.